All right, on Mercedes, I got an interesting question for you.
Hit me.
This car that they have, this radical design, is clearly way off the mark. It's got massive porpoising problems. It's roughly a second, give or take a few tenths, off
Mm-hmm.
of the pace of the leader,
Yeah,
or of the we'll just of Ferrari.
the leader.
What would it surprise you if they grabbed that car that we saw turn up in Barcelona that looked pretty solid and pretty quick and gave it a shot at one of these upcoming races?
Mm. Uh, so would I be surprised? No. But looking at it from a strategic standpoint, I don't think they will yet. Now,
I'm just saying like this year. At
oh
some
yeah.
point this
So
year.
well, I think that decision would be 100% dictated by Red Bull because with the car they have this much data now. They know what it's capable of, what it's not, what it's going to do, what it's not going to do. And as long as Red Bull continues on their trajectory of mechanical failures, they know that even though they are off the pace with this car, they are still in contention for second place in the constructors. So why risk a known factor with a car that, yeah, it looked good at Barcelona, but that's all they have. They now have, 3 races worth of data under it, and I think Red Bull is going to determine if Mercedes tries that. If Red Bull figures their stuff out and starts showing strong performances and regains that second position and maybe even starts putting a gap, then I think they might say, okay, let's try something different.
So I like where your head's at on that, and I agree. But regardless of what Red Bull does this year, when they don't break down, they're light years faster than them.
Mm-hmm.
So Mercedes has to be thinking, look, at some point they're going to sort this out. And maybe it's not even this year. Maybe this happens to Red Bull all year. I don't think it will, but let's just, for shits and giggles, let's say it does. Okay? Is a second place versus a third place worth it in terms of wind tunnel time? When you have massive problems and you are not fast, even if you luck your way in to a second place because the other team's not reliable is a lot. Christian Horner made a comment this week in reply to something that George Russell said about, I'd rather fix a fast car that's not reliable than a reliable car that's slow. And I think there's a lot to that because, like, when you're talking about reliability, you say, okay, this is what broke. This is how we fix it, and we move on. When you got a slow car, they still don't know what the hell to do. So,
it's a guessing game. It's a let's try this and see what happens.
Right. So now if they're in second place, because I believe the allocation of win total time, doesn't it readjust itself halfway through the season? Or is that locked in for the whole year?
I don't know. I don't know
I thought I
one way
heard
or
that
another.
it does. I don't know if that was maybe something that um, was proposed and it didn't take place, or that like halfway through the year, if like it gets reset based upon that order of the constructors halfway through. Um, if that's the case, that would seem way more beneficial for the long run of these regulations and for next year.
I agree. I
Because
do
they're
agree.
already, because like that's the thing right now, they have the absolute least because they won last
Mm-hmm.
year's constructors.
Right.
And meanwhile, McLaren has significantly more than them. So they're going to be coming out quick, and they have a much easier problem to fix, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, like what I feel like if you're Mercedes, you have options. Like, and look, there's nothing you can do if Red Bull just keeps gifting you freaking points.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because that's the thing. Wind tunnel time is not going to fix their problems.
No, it's not.
So, man, it's a tricky scenario, but I feel like if Mercedes can't get on top of this pace issue, and it's not just a porpoising, because
No,
the
it's just
Ferrari
overall
porpoise is out of
pace.
control, but the second they break to hit that corner, that thing is locked in.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah,
Leclerc
dude, the Ferrari
swears,
was porpoising worse than we've seen it yet.
yeah, it was. It was. But Leclerc swears it's not that bad in the car.
Man,
He,
could have
he,
had me
he
fooled.
dude, he swears by it. He's like,
Yeah.
I know what it looks like on TV and I see it. It looks wild, but it's really not that bad. Like
Yeah, I
maybe
mean,
he's just
dude,
that
just
much of an
seeing.
animal and is locked in so much he don't even know it's porpoising.
Oh, I know, right?
But
He's just that much of a badass.
but
Because, dude,
like
like
look,
the
you
few times
watch.
that they showed the camera on top of Lewis's car, and you could see just a little clip of his helmet, and dude, I mean, you see it like whack.
Yeah,
It's like, man, that looks rough.
his looks a lot more violent than Leclerc's. Like Leclerc's is, you see Leclerc's head kind of bouncing around, even pretty significantly, but it doesn't look as violent
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
as the Mercedes.
As the Mercedes one, yeah. Agreed.
But man, you look at Leclerc, the second they hit that braking zone, and it is just on rails.
Yeah, well, and that was the weird thing,
And it
because I did
flattens out
notice
immediately.
Yeah, well, and I noticed, previously, what was it in Bahrain? The Mercedes porpoising was causing Hamilton big problems in the braking zone.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't seem, and even Mercedes as well this weekend, as bad as the porpoising was for them and Ferrari, it didn't seem like it had any effect on the cars once they hit that braking zone. Because dude, in Bahrain,
you say
I mean,
that,
you saw Hamilton, going in way too deep, missing apexes because he just couldn't get the braking done in time. You saw a lot of turn one issues out of Hamilton in Bahrain.
yeah, but that's different because like that's one of those turns where like it kind of falls away from you. It's like,
yeah, but it still all
think,
came back to the porpoising causing problems in the
no
brake
doubt.
zone, which we didn't see that this weekend. It was just one of those things I'd kind of picked up on. You know, as bad as it was, it didn't seem to be causing any kind of issue whatsoever with either of them.
Well, I don't know if it's the porpoising or just the arrow in general on that Merc that it's just off. You know, like I don't know if it's the porpoising that's contributing to
obviously.
it through the corners, but they're just not sharp. You know, like the Ferrari is hooked up going through any corner. I mean, it's just it's got it. It's there. And the Mercedes is just off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at some point you're seeing understeer, at some point you're seeing oversteer, like it's all over the place.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of led me to that thought of maybe it'd be worth a shot to see where you're at if you ran that other car, being that they have it and you know it's got some kind of pace.
Right.
Like what could you lose? Like you're not going to, from the pace that it showed, you're not going to be any worse than where you're at. It doesn't seem to me, because there's such a big gap between you and everybody else behind you. You know, like what do you have to lose? What if that thing? What if that thing
that's kind of
plugs you
the other
in?
part of it, you know.
What if it plugs you into like fighting at the back? You know, we typically seen Charles and Max ahead of Carlos and Checo. What if that plugs you into the back of that fight?
And it very well could. You know, I guess kind of on the opposite side of what I was saying, I guess, you know, give it a whirl early on. And if it's horrendous, well, then, you know, you haven't lost too much yet. You know, you can always revert back. So,
or hell,
yeah, man, I don't.
Barcelona's coming up in 3 races. You already got all the data on there. Freaking run it there. See where you're at.
You know
see
what you
happens.
got. Right? Yeah, you know what you've got at that point.
Yeah.
On that track with it. You know, I wouldn't be surprised, actually, realizing when Barcelona is. I wouldn't be surprised if we did see it there.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anyway, that was just a little hypothetical. I thought warranted some discussion, because
absolutely.
I think they're just in a strange place, man, where there's really no threat from behind, but they're a long ways off